Hello, I'm Len Chrisman, Dean of the College of Pharmacy at the University of Texas at Austin. And today I'm with Dr. Robert Talbert, who's the SmithKline Professor of Pharmacotherapy at the University of Texas at Austin and the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. Bob is the 2014 recipient of the Robert Chalmers Outstanding Educator Award that is awarded by AACP. Bob, tell us what it means to you to be the recipient of the Chalmers Educator Award.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you to a number of people, including the committee that voted on my nomination, and especially to Leah Island, who nominated me and essentially kept me on track to get all the paperwork completed. So without her assistance, this award would not have happened. So I'm most appreciative of Leah. She was one of my former students, along with her husband, Ed, and both of them now are faculty at Talbert and doing very, very well in their careers. So I'm very proud of them. It's been a humbling experience, and it has caused me to reflect back on a 40-year career at University of Texas, 1 year at University of Nebraska, and sort of realize how important others have been in the receipt of this award. I could not have done this without the help of fellow faculty members, the leadership of the College of Pharmacy, including yourself, and the support of my family. So it's been a humbling experience. It's exciting. I'm happy, very delighted to receive this award. It's just such a great way to finish a career. But it really has been humbling to think about how others have been so very important to me in order to be able to do this.
Bob, you truly have had an extremely successful career, as you indicate, spanning over 40 years. Can you name 2 or 3 ingredients or factors that you think were important to your success?
Well, first of all, being trained at the University of Kentucky in what was one of the leading programs and continues to be a leading program in pharmacy, and just happened into this because serendipity plays a role in everybody's career. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, right outside of Lexington, Kentucky. Could not afford to go to pharmacy school anywhere else, but at the time, Kentucky was in the top 5 programs in the entire country. So being fortunate to go through a very high-level program, which at that time was very unique. There were only 5 or 6 Pharm.D programs in the entire country. So just a real opportunity for me that I didn't realize how important this was until somewhat later in my career. The other things that I think have been important are networking. You don't do much by yourself. It's really through your colleagues and your friends, your family, that enable you to be able to do things that you could not do on your own. For me, involvement in organizations has been critical for my career. I would cite in particular AACP, ACCP, and ASHP. So these organizations have been very important in my career development. During the presidential cycle for ACCP, I met a huge number of people, many of whom were famous on their own right. And it helped me to establish myself to bring recognition to the College of Pharmacy. And then the willingness to take on responsibility locally and at the national level. There are challenges out there. You must recognize those challenges and accept the challenges in order to grow. And then maintaining a high level of curiosity. Curiosity did not kill the cat. It may have been a virus. I'm not sure what it was exactly. But curiosity is important to maintain an interest in your profession, to grow in the profession, to continue to develop new knowledge and information that is useful for society.
As you indicated, that none of us do this alone. Can you tell us about 1 or 2 people in your career that were important mentors?
Oh, it's not 1 or 2, it's dozens. First of all, family. Growing up in a small town where you had the opportunity to do whatever you wanted to do, and your family supported you in everything that you did do. So my parents just did everything right as far as I'm concerned. They were very involved with our lives while we were in high school and later on in college. My father was the announcer at the football game while I played football out on the football field. My mother organized fundraising activities for the band, and she and my father both got up and did pantomime to musicals of the day, that sort of thing. So having them as role models to really show you this is what you're supposed to be doing as a parent was very, very important. Another person that has been key in my life was Charlie Walton, one of our former faculty members, an associate dean for the College of Pharmacy, who was my mentor at the University of Kentucky until he deserted me to come to the University of Texas and help create the Pharm.D program in San Antonio. He was important to me because of his attention to detail. He taught me to think more globally rather than just deal with the surface issues, and also was very encouraging. So he helped me do the first publication I ever did in the American Journal of Pharmaceutical Education. And without his help and assistance and encouragement, that publication probably would have never occurred. So it was key to get me going in terms of scholarly activity. Cliff Littlefield, one of our former associate deans and professors with the College of Pharmacy, taught me a lot about patience. You don't have to react to everything that's in the environment. You have to pick and choose the things that you really can work on and accomplish, and not blow everything totally out of proportion. And then, of course, leadership from deans of the College of Pharmacy, including Jim DeLuzio, Steve Leslie, and of course you, Lynn, as my current dean.
Dr. Walton was really important to a lot of us. In fact, he's the reason that I came to Texas. You talked about the importance of family. How have you achieved the appropriate work-family balance during your career?
It's very difficult for everybody to do, especially I think for women in any profession. Men tend to get off a little bit easier than women because of traditional roles, but I think growing up, once again, both of my parents worked once the three of us, the children, were in school. My mother started the Head Start program in Nicholas County, Kentucky. She brought in more federal money than I ever did in my entire career, and both of my parents were key players in the community. So I think having them as role models, being involved in things that we were doing, turned out to be very, very important. My wife, Betsy, has supported me throughout the last 35, 36 years. She's always been there. She went up and above everything she needed to do and did everything in just an exemplary manner. And then lastly, support from colleagues like Cliff Littlefield, especially while I was active at the national level with AACP and other organizations. As division head during that time, Cliff essentially filled in for me and did my job on a part-time basis until I returned from whatever national activity I was involved with. So many people actually have played a role in this. It's not just a single person, but I think having good parents goes a long way in terms of figuring out how to handle your own life.
That's really true. You were truly one of the early pioneers in clinical pharmacy. In fact, a lot of people didn't know what a clinical pharmacist was back in those days. What would you say was the inspiration as well as the persistence that you needed in order to be successful as a clinician?
I started in pharmacy when I was about 15 years old in Hopkins Drug in Carlisle, Kentucky, sweeping out the floors before school in the morning and stocking shelves in the afternoon. So that was my exposure to pharmacy. That's what I thought pharmacy was. David Zachary, who was a four-year graduate from the University of Kentucky, was my mentor during that era and really helped steer me into pharmacy. My father ran a construction company, and so as the least skilled worker on the workforce, I got to carry the bundle of shingles up to the roof to mix the concrete for the bricklayers, and these were all outside jobs. Hopkins Drug was air conditioned, and David Zachary made more money than I could possibly imagine. He made $12,000 a year. How could you possibly spend all of that money? So high pay, air conditioned job, good working conditions. What actually turned the table for me in terms of pursuing an academic career was the summer of 1969 at the A.B. Chandler Medical Center at the University of Kentucky. I was a summer intern during that summer. I found out that pharmacy was more than retail pharmacy, that pharmacists actually worked on the floor, manned unit dose, made IV admixtures, ran pharmaceutical technology, worked in a drug information center. In fact, Dr. Walton was my preceptor during my drug information rotation, where I prepared a monograph on a brand new diuretic called furosemide. So that summer was huge in terms of orienting my career. The following summer, I had asked Paul Parker, who was the director of pharmacy, to provide a different experience, and he recommended that I go to the Ohio State University, where Cliff Lachelet was the director of pharmacy. Now, both of these people were internationally known, but at the time, of course, I was too naive to understand that. So I spent a summer at Ohio State University where pharmacists gave all drugs. So I met some important people from later on in my career, Rosalie Segraves, who became one of our faculty and eventually was dean at the University of Illinois. So those 2 summers were critical in terms of changing my entire career direction. The other things had to do with my fellow residents and students at the University of Kentucky. All of them ended up going into academics somewhere. And so during that time, there really weren't that many jobs available. So I was fortunate to be able to go to the University of Nebraska, where Dick Gorley was my department chair, and such an enthusiastic and guy full of ideas, was just fun to work for. So that was an important year as well. And then another thing that happened about 1985 was a meeting with Joe DiPiero, who's now dean at Virginia Commonwealth University, and Michael Posey, who at the time was with AACP, met in San Antonio, where we developed the idea of getting a new textbook into the marketplace. The textbook is called Pharmacotherapy, a pathophysiologic approach, now in its 9th edition. So that book made a big difference in my career, but we didn't start the book to create fame and fortune for ourselves, but rather it was out of necessity in terms of creating a tool that would be useful in providing a standardized form of education for pharmacy students in the areas of pharmacotherapy and pathophysiology. So the book played a major role in my life. The 9th edition is currently being quite successful, so very proud of Pharmacotherapy, the textbook, and also the collaboration with Joe DiPiero and the other editors.
You and Joe and any other editors have a right to be proud of Pharmacotherapy. It really is the gold standard for a textbook for our profession. Over the last 40 years, we've made a lot of progress in clinical pharmacy, but we're still not where we want the profession to be in terms of the standard of practice being pharmacists providing direct patient care. What advice do you have to student pharmacists and young pharmacists who want to continue that transformation?
It's pretty simple and straightforward. The first thing is being willing to take on new challenges. The challenges are always there. They are different from time to time, but being able to recognize and take on new challenges, being able to persevere throughout a fairly long period of your career. You have to keep your nose to the grindstone continually. Be looking for opportunities, developing alliances, and being prepared. And I don't mean in a Boy Scout sense, but rather being truly a content expert in your field of expertise. So you have to be prepared to take on the challenge, and it's not a one-step process. It's a multi-step process that continues over a prolonged period of time, even, I would say, for me, even through the last 2 or 3 years. So it's been a lifelong pursuit of knowledge and excellence, trying to be the best that you can possibly be, and looking for new challenges to take on all the time.
Over the course of your career, you've truly been a man for all seasons. You're a highly skilled clinician, you're an outstanding teacher, prolific scholar, researcher, have given a tremendous amount of service to the profession of pharmacy. What's the right balance?
The triple threat player. In the development of any career, there are various stages, and one must adapt to each stage, change your focus, and as the time requires. So you have to be adaptable to the environment, to the challenges as they arise. Early on, I was mostly clinician and teacher, and then I began to develop scholarly activities, and eventually took on administrative responsibilities. So that's not really one career, that's really 3 or 4 separate careers, and I think most people go through this. I remember years ago the executive director from AACP talking about each person will essentially have 5 careers during their lifetime. And if I think about what's happened to me personally, what's happened to my wife, we both have had at least 5 careers. And so the responsibilities do change over time. And I think expecting change, accepting change, and rising to the challenge turns out to be the key thing. Basically, you have to morph yourself into the new situation so that you can handle the responsibilities and problems as they arise.
Do you have any final last words you'd like to share with AACP members?
Find something that you're passionate about. Pursue that passion. Be prepared as best you can to accept the challenges as they come along. Seek others to help you along the way, to be mentors to you, to be colleagues, and look for every opportunity.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.